Hey guys, today we are going to discuss the topic of loads and loading standards of the subject Design of Reinforced Concrete Structure 7th semester Civil Engineering. Myself Assistant Professor Gaurang Prajapati from Civil Department MGTA College, Navsari. So let's start the discussion with the topic of types of loads to be considered in the design of steel structure. In general, the loads on the structures are classified as vertical or gravity loads, horizontal loads and longitudinal loads. Over here I have given a table of three different loads. Say vertical loads. Vertical loads are the loads which act either upward or in downward, mostly in the downward directions. Examples of those vertical loads are dead load, live load or imposed load and impact load. While another category, that is horizontal load, these are the loads which act horizontally, or we can say in horizontal directions. Example of those loads are wind loads and earthquake load. And the last category, that is longitudinal load, these are the loads which are kept moving. That is example of that is moving loads. So let's discuss in brief about the different loads which we categorize in the table above. Let's start with the first one, that is dead load. Now dead load in a building includes the weight of all the permanent constructions like floors, roofs, wall, partition walls, beams, column, balconies, lintels, chhajjas, etc. Means these are the structures which cannot move from their position. They are steady at their positions for permanently. Okay. Now the load shall be assessed by estimating the quantity of each material and then multiplying it with the unit weight, or we can say density also. The unit weight of the various material used in the building constructions are given in the code IS 875 part 1 1987 version. Now moving forward, that is second load, that is imposed load. Now IS 800 2007 version groups the following loads as imposed load. These are the loads, that is live load, crane load, snow load, dust load, wave load or impact load. Let's starting with the first one, that is live load. The load which are not steady but keep on changing position from time to time are called the live loads. Means live load is such kind of load which is not steady at its particular position, means it will move. Say it is not fixed that it will move the next moment, or we can say the next minute or second. It will keep on changing its position from time to time. These are called live loads. Example of such loads are weight of persons, car, furniture, moving partitions, etc. Moving our third load, that is wind load. It is considered in the design of tall building. The force exerted by the horizontal component of wind is to be considered for the design of building. It depends upon the velocity of wind and shape and size of building. Complete detail of calculating wind load on the structures are given in IS 875 part 3 1987 version. Means in simple words we can say we have to consider the wind load calculation while designing a tall structure. Next, that is earthquake load. Earthquake shocks cause movement of foundation of structure. Means it will move the foundation in the horizontal direction. It causes shaking of the ground in all the directions along the two horizontal directions, that is x and y, and the vertical direction, that is also in z directions. All the structures are primarily designed to carry the gravity loads. Means they are designed for a force equals to mg acting in the vertical downward directions, and this downward direction force mg is called the gravity loads. Means in simple words, all the structures are basically designed to resist the gravity load. Means we can say vertical load, say either in upward direction or in the downward direction, that is not an issue. Okay. Now what happens during the earthquake? The vertical acceleration during the ground shaking either adds or subtracts from the acceleration due to gravity. Now since factor of safety are used in the design of the structure to resist the gravity load, usually most structures tend to adequate against the vertical shaking. As I discussed, that structures are basically designed for the resistance of the gravity load. So there is no issue with the, we can say, the movement, or we can say additive or subtractive quantity of the load, vertical load. Okay. But during the earthquake, the structure in general may not be able to safely sustain the effect of horizontal earthquake shaking. Now that is the issue, because what earthquake will do, that it will tend to move the foundation in the horizontal direction. Hence, it is necessary to ensure the adequacy of the structure against the horizontal earthquake effects. So, hope you guys are getting the concept of the earthquake load. Okay, so ultimately it will keep on changing, or we can say keep on adding the loads in all the directions, say horizontal and vertical also, but the structures can easily resist the vertical loads. That is not issue with that one. Now the issue with the horizontal movement of the structure, now that is an issue. So we have to keep it in consideration while designing a structure. Now to resist, or we can say to survive against such kind of loading, steel structures are one of the very big advantage over there. So let's discuss its advantage of the steel structure. It offers much better compressive and tensile strength than concrete. Lighter construction, it can be easily recycled. It is also environment friendly. Its erection is also faster. Prefabrication and demountability is also possible. Connection using bolting, welding or riveting can be done very easily. It can be used as load bearing frames in building, truss member, bridges, etc. It is also high ductile, more safer against the sudden loads or overloading, and additions or alterations can be done very easily. But at the same time, it also has some of its disadvantage. For example, it requires fire protections as strength reduces at the higher temperature. Also, as it is made of steel, it requires the corrosion protection. Third, even in the tall building, cladding and divide walls are made of the masonry or other materials, means it is not possible to make complete steel structure. Some of its partitions, or we can say parts, have to be made out of the other material. Foundation is also made of concrete. At the same time, welding, tightening of HSFG, that is high strength friction grip bolts, requires the proper training and comparatively more costly structures than the concrete. Now, let's discuss the effect of wind load on the structure, as we are going to study about the wind load effects. Okay, so all the exposed structures, irrespective of their height, are affected by the wind force. Greater or smaller level, wind effect will always there on the building. As wind blow against a structure, its outer surface experiences the effect of the wind force. Obviously, outer surface is the first one which will expose to the wind. Now, wind exerts pressure or suction on the exterior surface of building, that is normal. Now, for the low height structure, it is not that important, except that for the uplift of the light roof system, but for all the tall structures this may be significant and requires serious consideration. In simple words, in the low height structure, or we can say the low building, wind load is not that much problem unless you are providing a very light roof system. If you are providing proper roof system, there is no issue with that one. But while designing a tall structure, or we can say tall building, we have to keep it consider, or we can say we have to consider the wind load while designing. Now, the wind pressure intensity at any height of a structure depends upon the velocity of air, height and shape of the structure, topography of the area and the angle of wind attack. Now, some of its effects are bending of steel structure of its members, blowing of the roof of sheds, failure of steel dowel structures, tilting of the steel towers and failure of glass cladding. Now, towards the end, we will differentiate between the two methods, that is working stress method and limit state method. We all studied it about it in the previous subject, that is elementary structural design. Starting with the difference. Now, both the method which we are using, say working stress method and limit state method, using the course IS 800. Now, working stress method use the older version, that is the code of 1984, while limit state method use the updated version, that is the code of 2007 version. Now, in the working stress method, it is also called as allowable stress method, or we can say ASM, or elastic design method. While in case of limit state method, it is advancement over the plastic design method, or we can say ultimate load method. Now, in case of working stress method, the allowable stress will be in the plastic range of the material and will be less than the yield stress, that is Fy. Now, allowable stress equals to 0.6 Fy, while permissible stress equals to yield stress divided by factor of safety. While in case of limit state method, partial safety factor for the material, say gamma m, for the yield and ultimate stress is used. In case of working stress method, pure elastic approach for analysis of structure under the working load. While in case of limit state method, working loads are factored using the partial safety factor. This is one of the very big advantage of the limit state method over the working stress method. Now in case of working stress method, yielding or buckling never occurs at working load. While in case of limit state method, post yielding or post buckling play a very important role in estimating the capacity of the structural element at limit state. Means we can never know the how load will behave in the future exactly. So post yielding and post buckling will play a very important role in case of limit state method. It considers only linear elastic behavior of the material, that is working stress method, while in case of limit state method it considered linear elastic as well as non-linear behavior, or we can say plastic behavior of the material. Now in case of working stress method, serviceability and economy are not considered, while in case of limit state method both are considered for the design. Working stress method gives heavier section while limit state method gives lighter structures. And in case of working stress method, fatigue and fire resistance criteria are not given, while in case of limit state method, fatigue and fire resistance criteria are given. So this is the theoretical basic concept of the chapter load and loading standard. In further we will discuss about its different examples. Okay, thank you.